Okay, we're live now. Um, Welcome to our viewers. Welcome everyone who's watching us today. Sorry for using African time. We're late by about 4 minutes, but yeah, it's African time. You have to understand us, but we apologize for that. As we said in the past few days, today I've got a special guest. He's a football man that most of us know. And we're just going to discuss Zimbabwean football, the AFCON review, and any other subjects about Zimbabwean football that we would normally discuss about as football men. So I'm going to welcome Marshall Gore. Welcome to our platform, and thank you for honoring us with your presence. We are quite grateful for you being here because we've been seeing you running around in the past few years, especially with the diaspora players who've come to add quality to our players and to Zimbabwe. So we're very grateful for the work you're doing and for honoring us with your presence here.
Thank you for having me. It's a great show. I've been watching it, so it's a great show. We need many voices, and certainly this is a good one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And welcome, legend Kelvin. He's a former Caps United Sporting Lions player, and he's also a host on this show. Welcome, Kevin. And we've also got Gono Oliver. He's one passionate man. I think he's got a couple of videos that have gone viral. A lot of people don't like him in the past few weeks, but a lot of people do like him. But thank you for being here, Oliver. And
Thank you very much.
yeah. So, gents, it will be a free for all. And to the audience, please feel free to bring your comments. We'll be flighting them, any comments that you bring along. But thank you so much for being with us. So, Marshall, I'm going to start deep.
That's
if
fine.
you allow me. Yeah. So, when you joined the race for ZIFA as a presidential candidate, I was one of the people who liked you. I think you had a very organized manifesto. You had a clear message in your manifesto about Zimbabwean football. But I must say, me and a lot of other people had some reservations because of so-called political connections. But I've grown to mature and understand that football is for everyone. So how do you feel about people connecting football and politics? Is it a good thing for you to be connected? Is it a bad thing? How have you find the experience?
I think maybe if I can start by saying the two can coexist. I think in society, what you tend to see is that we demonize football, we demonize politics as well. But as for me, I think football is the tool that can bring us together. Maybe the four of us here today, we are here discussing football, but we have different political affiliations, and we also have different religious affiliations. But because we are talking football, that brings us together. So I actually think that football should be the platform that people from different political backgrounds are able to come and coexist. For example, I think we have honorable, I think she's a councillor, she's not an honorable, Miss Kadzombe, who's part of the ZIFA board. You know, she belongs to, she's a councillor of the opposition, but she's serving in the ZIFA board. And I think football is the platform that should enable us to coexist irrespective of our different political grounds.
Yeah, I agree. Kevin, anything on this or Oliver?
Yeah, I I'm obviously going to agree with Mashi, because I have worked with Mashi for probably 15 years, and in that 15 years, he's been my boss. And in that, was starting with like Team Zimbabwe UK, from when I started, I joined as a player, then captain, then up to the point where Mashi was the reason as well behind me becoming the manager as well for Team Zimbabwe UK. The one thing I can say to you is until today, not one day have we ever discussed anything political with Mashi, because but we've always discussed, what the one thing that has always mattered, with us with football. Yeah, everyone everyone is political somehow, in all walks of life. It just depends with where you're affiliated with, yeah. But the bottom line is, with football, it doesn't matter which party you belong to, or even if you don't have the party that you belong to, as long as so you're trying to do the best, for us in terms of developing the game, and that's what Mashi has been passionate about, and I've known him long enough, and like you said as well, I was so rooting for Mashi, and I don't know, probably I had false confidence as well, that Mashi was going to win. Somehow I just felt that maybe it's my bias, in me, because the one thing that mattered to me there is someone I've worked with for that many years, for close to 2 decades in football, and I know what he's about. And I knew that if he gets in there, our football was going to change. Not because he's trying to look for something. You hear people coming into football and say, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, he's in it for something else." Yeah. And to my point, I've always said, what is wrong with someone probably end up being successful in something, but if he sorts out our football, because you expect a man to be able to live, but he can still do the two things, being able to live and also being able to make a success of our game. And that's what I really rooted for. But unfortunately, things didn't happen that way. But the important thing for me is that I also knew that that would never sway him from leaving the game just because of the setback that had happened. Because what he's always done is about the passion that he has, and that's not going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. So Mashi, do you have any say about some assertions by certain people that sometimes even selection for the national team is affected by political connections or by certain figures who are politically connected?
I think that's a broader assumption. I think anything can be affected by anything, but it depends now the people that are working in the institution, how credible they are in terms of ensuring that there's good governance. I think what we also need to be aware of is that we have a new administration that is barely less than a year old. I think they will become 1 year on the 25th of January in 2026. As far as I'm aware of, one of the most important critical aspects that they focused on sorting out was the governance itself, which is good governance that protects the game to ensure that there is ethical operations within the parameters of the football. So my understanding is that the administration has been focusing entirely on putting the governance first before they can move into the other developmental aspects of the game. But to expect them to have eradicated misgovernance and corruption, or the underhands, the influence, within 1 day, it would be also an understatement. But as far as I know, they've been very keen to work in protecting the game, that there is good governance that ensures that the game is protected from those that are corrupt and from those that do not have the right intentions. Whether the governance fence is strong enough to protect the game now and affect other people from coming in, I think it might be too early to suggest that. But the intention on paper is to ensure that we clean up our football from corruption, influencers, and a lot of other people. The commitment is there, I've seen it, but the implementation now requires all of us. I think actually even you, the media, to also police our game.
Thank you for calling us the media. We're not yet used to being called the media.
Okay.
So
Mash,
go ahead, Olive.
I've got one question.
Yes, sir.
You've actually brought out a very, very important part, which you are saying the governance part is actually coming in. And last time, what caused you to be elbowed out was the governance structure, where they actually came up with a lot of things that they then inputted in the constitution so that at least you could not contest to become the chairperson, to become the ZIFA chairperson.
Did he not contest? I think he did contest.
But there were a lot of things that were just put in.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things. So whilst they're in the process of doing that, do you foresee a situation whereby there is not going to be an issue like what happened last time when we wanted to have NAFAs from Chiangwa during the process of even revamping ZIFA as it is?
I think we have to also understand that our football has suffered a lot. Our football has suffered a lot over the past years. And I don't envisage us potentially cleaning out everything immediately. Yes, there were attempts to eradicate people like me from contesting in the elections. And that was purported by people that had power within the executive that time, that presided over power within the executive. But again, it's not new in football. This has been happening. It happens at FIFA level. It even happens at CAF level. But I think what we need to do is to ensure that we work together collaboratively, those within the framework of football administration and those outside as well, to ensure that we guard jealously our game, and never again should we have people from the diaspora who are within my situation trying to be eliminated from contesting the elections. Because I have not lived for 2 continuous years in Zimbabwe, yet every year I travel to Zimbabwe focusing on football development programs. Do you know what I mean? So that is uncalled for, and we don't want to see that. But what I can say also is that the best way to ensure that we build a transparent, strong, and solid football association is to also make sure that we have the framework to ensure that the good people come into office so that they can sort things out. The moment we have an electoral process which does not allow the right candidates to be in charge, we create also chaos. I'm not saying this was the case in the last election, but I'm just saying going forward, I think we do agree, all of us, including those that are governing now, that by all means we must have a system that allows people that are committed, people that are transparent, people that are also clean, without criminal records, to be in charge of our game. That will help a long way in making sure that our game is protected.
Yeah. So when you contested the last time, is there a new constitution that was used, or is still the old constitution and the old councillors who were involved in the process?
I think the election framework was guided by the old constitution, although there were some amendments that were recommended by the normalization committee that was in charge, and they were also approved by FIFA. But some of the amendments were questionable. For example, the amendment I've mentioned, the O-level issue is contentious as well, you know. So for me, I would like to see a constitution that protects the game and put a lot of emphasis more on experience, put more emphasis on transparency, put more emphasis on criminality, and not allow people that have previous convictions or criminal associations to be put in place. I don't think a constitution should focus on eliminating candidates as a result of jurisdiction. So as long as you have a Zimbabwean passport, you are in the US, you are in Australia, if you're a credible football administrator and you have the knowledge and the experience, you should be able to contest. So I'll be lobbying for that. Not only am I lobbying for this in football alone, I think this should also be permitted in politics as well. If we are talking of, from government policy, we are talking of engagement and re-engagement. Engagement and re-engagement, which means any of us on this platform can go back home if we have the necessary skills to run major institutions. We should not be eliminated because we have spent 6 months in the UK or we have spent 6 months in Dubai. I think so as long as one has a Zimbabwean passport, they can contribute and they can show, they can articulate that they are capable of supporting the country. They should be given a chance.
And any comments on that?
I'll let Kevi start, then I'll come in, or I can start, Kevi, then you follow.
You can go ahead.
Okay. Now you mentioned the issue of people being elbowed out because of the constitution, and yet the funds are the custodians of Zim Soccer, and these ones are only the executive part of it. I wanted to hear from you, is there within the constitution, like to follow what you have actually highlighted, do we have within the board of ZIFA a place or a seat whereby we have a seat for somebody who is in the diaspora, so that at least they can also influence policies at top level? Because if we don't have that, is there room for us to include that?
Or even funds?
Even funds, of course, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very important point that you've raised, Oliver. I think now we have a post for the diaspora. The post that I hold, chair of the Diaspora Engagement or Global Affairs or Global Interactions Committee, which means we have a committee that has been set to look into the diaspora affairs. One can question, obviously, the composition of the committee. That for me, I think it deserves to have a lot more people from the diaspora, not necessarily from the UK alone, Australia, the Americas, and Dubai, and even South Africa. So I think it's a call in the right direction by the current president and the current board that saw it fit to have this. yes, it's important also to look at other examples, whether there is a fan liaison officer. I think in my manifesto, I highlighted that one of the other things that I wanted to do is to ensure that the fans have a representative that sit within the executive committee because they have a voice. They should also be represented. But at this moment in time, I don't think that voice is constitutional, although there is a representative of the Supporters Association who occasionally liaises with me, the president, and everyone else. But again, it's important to ensure that maybe as we develop further, we can embed that because it's important to also give the fans a voice. But let me also say that the fans must also be organized because what we have currently is a lot of different voices speaking. But I think I'm an advocate of more organization with regards to the Zimbabwe Football Association, Fans Association, so that we can come together and have one legitimate voice. Because if we don't have that, we end up again by misrepresented by someone who doesn't have the fans' interest, but is close to power.
Yeah.
And we could eradicate that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the small comment I was just going to make was on the, like you mentioned, the difficulties, that we tend to have is when certain things tend to be, we tend to look at more on the constitution around the time when elections, are due.
Yeah.
And that in itself, creates, a doubt about the reasoning behind it. Because why shouldn't we be looking at the constitution 3 years before the elections? Why specifically, what people want to change certain aspects? Because if it's something that happens all the time, people become suspicious that certain elements are trying to remove certain elements, from the race, like you mentioned, with what happened regarding people not living in Zimbabwe. Yeah. So that's part of good governance as well, which is needed, but to show that there is no ill sort of ideas which are coming up, within the people who are basically the leaders in that structure to say we are being as open as we are. This is open to every Zimbabwean. If you want to contest, in certain positions like being the leader of ZIFA, there shouldn't be sort of any sort of walls which are being put, in and around the time when the elections are due. So I think that would be part of a very important part of being clean.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Kevi. What I feel is that we missed the point also. Remember, we had a normalization committee that had been brought in to normalize our football. I think the normalization committee, in my understanding, had also the mandate to look and review at the constitution and make sure that there's inclusive dialogue with all key stakeholders to ensure that we deliver a constitution that was desirable to our structures in Zimbabwean football. But unfortunately, we didn't have that. It was a tragedy to justice that we ended up going into elections with the previous constitution, which had failed us again. And with the same electorate, which has delivered undesirable results in the past. I say in the past, So you're right that I strongly believe that the purpose of the normalization committee was to come and look at all these things so that we have a clean slate of starting. But unfortunately, due to some challenges, which they will probably be able to explain, we ended up going to the election with the same constitution and with a few amendments that I felt at the time were brought in to try and eliminate some candidates and not to bring in people with the right expertise. We expect amendments when they are made, they should be made with prior reason of improving the governance of our game. But if amendments are brought in to exclude people unjustifiable, then again, we question that. We question that in the process. I have to say, I had to fight also hard to ensure that I'm not disqualified because of my residence issue. But again, it's not fair. And I think there are other people that are also not fair with the 5 O levels. Was it consensus? Was it brought to eliminate certain candidate? Is it right for our football? Was it debated by all key stakeholders to ensure that it's the right thing? So these are fundamental issues that I think we need to be looking into. And I do hope that the current administration will also have time to look at these things. But I know they have a lot of work in their hands as well.
Yeah. But Mashi, do you think, say, if there is a councillor who's benefiting from the current status quo, do you think they would have any reason to want things to change?
Listen, I think if you notice, quite recently we've just had the elections of the councillors. I don't know if you guys are aware.
Yeah.
We had them in December. And I think one of the issues of contention was that before our election, we were supposed to have elections of the councillors first so that they could then elect an executive board. So again, there are illegalities and legal issues in terms of how things should be done right. But I think also I do admire the current president's courage to have the elections now, because a lot of people had felt that he needs to delay the elections so that he gives time for those people that voted him to stay into office and enjoy. But I like his courage to have had the elections now. Some people won, some people lost, but from what I gather, there were not major changes within the regional structures. But at least elections actually took place. So I can say that from the regional bodies, we have a new mandate of people that will probably maybe have proper mandates to vote in the next elections in 2029.
From my side, I think it will be unfair for me to ask you more about the region, because they only appear when it comes to time of voting, but when it comes to structures on the ground, you find that there is nothing. But anyway, is it okay to just now go on to, because I wanted to ask a question to say, what is it really happened with our qualification in with AFCON? And if it was you, what is it that you would have done differently?
I think you mean the current qualification in Morocco. What happened in Morocco?
Morocco one.
The
Yeah.
tournament.
I hope I'm not getting there, OJ, or you have a time to get there.
Let's go on. We'll circle back.
I think firstly, I would like to say to thank all the boys that played in Morocco. It was a very difficult group that we were in, and I think we saw a lot of good performances. But what I think should have been done is that we had issues with the coach. Remember, the current coach who coached Mario only had about 36 days with the team, So in my opinion, I felt that although there were challenges during this time, but if I had the final say, I would have rather Michael Nice to finish the job that he started, and at least he was not going to give us excuses that I don't know the team or I haven't spent much time with the team. So I think changing the coach 2 months less than the qualification was not a good idea. I'm saying this considering that we knew long before that we were not going to qualify for the World Cup. So we had also a window to bring in the new coach earlier, so that he can finish the last 4 qualifications of the World Cup, give him time to assess the team. But to give Michael Nice all that time, and then finally, when the qualifications are done of the World Cup, the games that we could have used to experiment and to test the deep, and then we bring in a new coach. To me, there was no wisdom in this. And it's something that I voiced openly. It's not a secret. I've spoken with VP Kenny Ndebele, and I voiced my opinion on this, that it wasn't really the best thing that we could have done. We could have done things differently. And also, if you notice, there was also a slight delay when Michael Nice was dismissed. It took us about 2 to 3 weeks to appoint a new coach again. So for me, it's best to look for a replacement, agree, and then fire the coach so that you don't disrupt preparations more, So for me, changing of the coach had an impact. It's not a secret. This coach did not know the players. For example, when he was selecting the players, he had to ask a group of coaches to select the players for him, because he came in at a time when there were no games as well, and the domestic league was just about to end. So he had to ask a team of, which was a very good idea, a group of coaches with experience to select the players for him so that he could work with the players. So that's a disadvantage, again, for him to go to AFCON with a squad entirely which he did not pick, Again, this is where the problem starts, What else from a coaching point of view? I also think we should have camped. I know the boys camped at home, Cresta Lodge, and trained at Rufaro. I was a strong advocate of a camp abroad. As part of my duty as the diaspora engagement, I'd made inquiries with some contacts in the diaspora and put together a camping plan for the team in Dubai. I felt that was needed, especially with a new coach to spend much more time with the players psychologically. I thought that was important. So I advocated for that to the Football Association, to the Secretary General and the Presidium. But unfortunately, they cited that Nice had made some prior plans to go to Spain. And now when the new coach came, there were also finance issues. But I still think that we could have done better to put the boys in a camp at least 2 to 3 weeks before a major tournament. We didn't do that, and it affects the bond of the boys, and that's my thinking. I think we may disagree with other people, but for me, I think this was a big tournament for us, and we needed to have prioritized going into camp. I know resources are a constraint, but I think we would have pulled left, right, and center, all of us, to support the Football Association to ensure that the boys go in camp.
So sorry, sorry to cut in. In terms of the coaches selection and the criteria for the coaches selection, who gets to make that decision? Who gets to discuss that before we say we are choosing Mario? What qualities do we want from Mario? Why are we firing this one? What changes do we expect? So who gets to make that decision? How qualified are they to be able to make that technical decision?
Well, within the ZIFA structure, there's a technical committee that is headed by a board member in charge of technical development, which is Mr. Tafadzwa Benza. So Benza has a committee of people that he works with. They were the ones that entrusted with the responsibility of selecting the coach after the application. As you are aware, ZIFA opted to advertise for the job for coaches to apply. Again, personally, I'm not a big fan in modern days of advertising a job description, because it limits people who are interested. I actually think the best way to do it was to look for what we want, because you know what I mean? You have to have a model of a coach that you want. We wanted a manager because we don't have time. We've got less than 2 months to go into the AFCON. So we wanted someone who could manage, and ensure that within a short period of time, they can reference. Applications are good. Yes, they work more transparent, but sometimes it takes time when a lot of people were told that more than 100 applications were made. How do you screen them within a short period of time? How do you interview people if they are in Brazil, if they're in Europe, in Eastern Europe, all these things. So again, it's work in process. These are differences of how we see things differently. And I voiced again my opinion to the Football Association on this. We respectively differed in our ways of doing things, which is right. That's the beauty of the democracy that we have. So they opted to go through this route, which we have Mario, and we ended up having Mario. And I think under the circumstances, I actually think Mario did a very good job under the circumstances. It remains to be seen if he had been given enough time to work with the players, understand the culture of the football and all these things. Maybe the result might be better. But you can't also judge a man into a coaching job 36 days before the tournament. And whether this is a good excuse for him, but we also allowed it to happen. So for me, it was a big learning experience for us, the administrators, for the coach himself, and for all the players. So that's what I can say.
I'll come in there because I think probably you might not be aware, Machi, but I was like, when it comes to the coach, I think I was the one who was always accused of siding with the coach. But the thing is, most of the things that I do,
even now,
as you know me, Mashi, I'm very principled, in how I work, with players and how I work with officials and, everyone else around the game, because I breathe the game. So one of the reasons why I had reservations about having a go too much at the coach is the things that you've just mentioned. Because for starters, I know how difficult it is as a coach to try to implement a system in our two players in 6 months, let alone you're doing it in 36 days. Yeah. And not only that, this is not a coach who is Zimbabwean. So for the last 5-10 years, he's known about the players coming in. You would know the Munetsis, you would know the local players and all that. So let's just say Pasua or whoever manager was working abroad, and then they asked to come and deal with the team. They know pretty much all the players. There we are. We having a coach who's coming in, and probably he would know 2 or 3 players who are European based. All the other players that he's working with, he doesn't know them. And what does he do? He's asking coaches to bring in, to have a committee and bring in players for him. Coaches in Zimbabwe, people are human beings, yeah? Coaches are going to have favorites. Sometimes they will choose the right players. Sometimes they will choose the players they prefer in their system. None of these coaches, it's not like these 4 coaches play in a system that the new coach they're picking players for plays in. So he's being given the tools that he's not aware of, but he's trying to, sort of make a team out of that. That is extremely difficult, but a scenario, to deal with. And then when it comes down to that, that's the reason why I actually had a lot of respect for him, because I thought he did a good job under the circumstances. But the difficulty that we have is it depends with where you're speaking from. Are you speaking from a fan point of view, or you're speaking from a technical point of view? Because if you're speaking from a fan point of view, all you see in front of you is win, 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 or good performance, good performance, good performance. That's it. But you're not thinking about how you actually bring that into the fore. And that was always going to be difficult. So to play the way that we played in patches, actually, for me, shows that we've got a bright future. Yes, we might be disappointed about the games that we lost. Some of them, we know we had individual mistakes, what that happened. But if you look at what they were trying to do, for the amount of time that he had, this is someone who you really think we've got to give him time. We've got to give him time, because the one thing that he's learned now is he now knows the players more than he did. If we're being honest about it, even now as we speak, he might know them, but not as fully as probably me and you would know these players. He's only just learned, like in the last 3-4 weeks and all that, when he's been with in camp with them. So yes, there were a lot of mistakes that were made, and with the knee situation, from an emotional point of view with the fans, yes, you would say, oh, he's not done this, he's been arrogant and all that. And I wasn't a fan of Nice as well. So if I'm being honest, I didn't care that he left. But if I'm talking from a footballing point of view, I understand what Mashi is saying, because you know what? At least he knew the players. He knew the players. Nice wouldn't ask 4 coaches to pick players for him, because he knew what he was working with. So that's very difficult. We had.
Well, yeah, but I think maybe if I can respond. Or do you want to go, Oliver, first?
Yeah, I wanted with KV that discussion is still ongoing, because we always exchange messages on our platform. But I'll let you go first, then I'll come to KV. He knows that.
Yeah.
My opinion on that.
I think KV, you're a coach, and you've coached. You also, I think there's some good qualities with the coach. I think for me, if I'm also speaking as a former player and the coach as well, I think the good qualities I like about the coach, he was brave. He wanted to play attacking football, fast and furious football. I had a chance to speak with him after the Angola game, and which is a meeting I felt was necessary to discuss about the Tawanda issue. And respectfully, we had a very good meeting. He explained his side of the story, and we also spoke with the player, and I think it worked.
Anything you can share on that?
So he's also a man of dialogue. He's not shy of conversations. He operates with strict rules, which was obviously a rude awakening for some of the players that were not used to that. But I think that was a good thing to also have from a national team coach. But I think if to be honest, we can't criticize the coach, because if you compare with Hugo Broos, who's been with the South African team for the last 4 years, and so there are issues there. But I think also, if you sit with Mario now, Kevi, as a coach, and you discuss also, there's certain issues also on reflection that we can also look at. It's also good for us as fans and as officials to discuss the game as it is. Like for me, personally, on reflection, after the game against Egypt, in the last 10 minutes, it was better off to bring in solid defenders than to bring in attacking players. because going into 90 minutes at 0-0, I thought the likes of Alex Mudimu to bring them to sit in and break in the mid would have worked. But maybe if we had considered, we would have said, oh, he opted to be too defensive. But I thought maybe that would have been an option. But he was pragmatic. He went the best way of defending is attacking, which we can debate as well. It's not a criticism, but it's an opinion. We can share opinions, and opinions are also important for us to share. It's not we are criticizing him. Like, for example, maybe if he had played Maswanhise in the game against Egypt or the game against Namibia, against Angola, maybe we would have seen the magic, or maybe not, but maybe. These are ifs, But
Yeah.
but I think those are points that people can also debate and question. But you can't really fault him. I think the attitude was right from him. He played fast and furious football. And I actually think as a nation, we are built to attack. We're not built to defend. I think the quality of the players we have, we're built to attack. And just emphasizing on another point, Kevi, which maybe I felt that it could have been handled better, was also to do with the diaspora players, that the coaches that were put together to help the coach to select players. I think it was a good idea. It eliminates bias, at least if you pick 5 or 6 coaches, top coaches in the league, to pick their squad, and you put everything together, and then you take whoever is appeared more in the list. I think that was a fair system of a new coach to come and get a feel of what it is. But I think the most disadvantage, in my view, was the diaspora. There were also players that I felt would have been included in the squad. Maybe those coaches in Zimbabwe were not aware of these players. For example, Ethan Sunderland, who's at Wolves, he's been in the lineup for the last couple of Premiership games. He's a left back.
Yeah.
I thought his inclusion, we managed to get his passport. We're fighting with Scotland that if we had picked him for AFCON, Scotland might not have had the chance to pick him for the World Cup because he's got a Scottish passport and a Zimbabwean passport at the same time. But because we missed the opportunity to also invite him to the AFCON, we might lose him going to Scotland. He's less than 23 years, valuable asset. But again, it's this process now in this system which got him to be left out from the selection. Again, it's something that I will reflect and put in my report, that so as long as the system that was put in was transparent, but it would also been very helpful to bring someone from the diaspora to also share valuable information of credible players that are available for national duty. So I think we also lost a good player.
So Mashi, under your diaspora engagement team, do you have any coaches or ex-players that you liaise with to help, especially in the technical bits about the game?
Well, I talk to coaches like the Team Zimbabwe guys that I've been working with, KV, Trevor, and a lot of them, even Bruce is involved in. I consult them over players as well. But our duty is not necessarily to pick players. Our duty is to recruit and make them available so that the national team coach can actually pick who he wants, But again, communication and information sometimes is missed, especially I thought with Nice, we had developed, our relationship was not great. Our relationship was not great at start. I think, KV, our relationship was not great at start. But with time, I think we started to respect and know each other. I think after the UK trip, Nice got to understand the work we are doing and that we were non-aligned with players. All we do is to provide ZIFA with a list of players that have expressed interest to represent Zimbabwe, that have passports and that are available. And then that list, I'm not sure if that list got to Mario on time. Yes, I made attempts to contact Mario to speak with him when he was appointed, to introduce myself and to talk. But there was not much time to do things the best way we would do. A face-to-face meeting was impossible. He was appointed when he was outside the country. He came in, interviews, the job, So there wasn't enough time. But I think we do consult the football stakeholders that are here. We're building also the structure. I think with time we'll perfect it. But for now, I think they're people that are able to identify that I springboard with and provide the list to ZIFA. And we do it in a transparent manner as well.
If I'm also to come in, I think if I was to also evaluate how Mario got it right and got it wrong, I'll give him flowers and also in some cases stones. Because I think the way how he actually brought about the 56 players from the coaches was actually a very good thing, which actually helped us to create, at least have a pool of players that you could actually select from. But the challenge was that he was just getting players without a contextual understanding of how he's going to use them. So if somebody was actually slow and yet the coach selected that person very slow. Asina kunzwisisa the fast and furious that he wanted. He ended up getting players that were actually favorable to the coaches without him coming in. But you cannot blame him simply because he was given these players. And also, given the fact that he
But
was
let's not
given
forget
36.
that he also had two
Yeah.
friendlies. He also had
Yeah.
two friends in Qatar. He played against Algeria and played against Qatar. So that was important to test the formation and he trained for almost 2 to 3 weeks with the players, with all the bigger squad, and he trimmed it, based on his own knowledge.
Yeah. Then I think where I have a challenge, which Kevi also has tried hard, and I don't think it's even going to convert me, is when Mario then, when it came to the game situation, he had actually had two friendlies, and noticed that we have one of our best players, Maswanhise, who is from the diaspora, and deliberately decided to put him aside at the expense of other untested players. You see, to me, it was actually very questionable. Then the other thing is, I think his relationship, this is me thinking, in my court of public opinion, he would have actually done better with the information that he was given because he was trying to be very scientific. But I tend to wonder the scientificity of his decisions based on a person who has been scoring in Scotland versus an individual who had not actually scored at at an epic platform. So to me, he missed the point.
But Oliver,
Where he needed to substitute, the way how he wanted to substitute, and if he was about winning. Because the unfortunate thing about statistics that he wants to bring in is he has got 1 win, 2 draw, 1 win, 1 draw, and all losses. And those statistics will continue. And we cannot even expect him to win next 3 games.
I
Because
think
he's
Oliver,
still proving.
it's important that you guys must also work to bring Mario here to defend himself. But I think what is important is, I think the unfortunate bit is that during the two friendlies, in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar, Maswanhise fell ill. He did not play. So that was a disadvantage. If he had played in those games, Bill Antonio played in those games, and against Qatar, Bill was smashing really when he came in, So I
So
actually
he
think that
fell ill
in Saudi
Qatar.
Arabia, in Qatar, he did not play. I spoke with him. He was unwell. He had a flu, so he did not play in those.
So why did ZIFA PR not douse the flames in terms of the rumors that were flying around by saying probably he's injured or something?
No. I think, to be honest, I think ZIFA communicated about Chirewa because there was an arrangement with Wolves that Chirewa would play the first game and leave for the second game. I think that was communicated. But I think with Maswanhise, he was unwell, and there was hope that he could be fit for the game against Qatar. So he wasn't fit for the game against Qatar, so he didn't play. I don't think it needed a press release to explain that. But this is someone who works with these players, and I'm close. I was fully aware of this, and it was unfortunate because the coach never had to see him in a game situation. He only had to assess him in training sessions.
And something that I mentioned, Mashi, as well, is obviously, we've had discussions before, me and you, and we just couldn't, like, I chose not to divulge any discussions we had because we had to work, we had to see the team playing and doing also, we wanted the team to win. No controversy or anything. But at the end of the day, like one of the points that I made to you when we spoke on Saturday, I think we spoke on the Saturday after the game here, and is sometimes looking again from a coaching point of view, is that sometimes as a fan, it's difficult to comprehend that a certain player is not being used. But then there could be a lot of variable reasons why that player wouldn't be playing. And I gave an example, like let's say, for example, if Maswanhise was really taking the mick or really not being serious, I'm not accusing him of that, because we know that he's a good lad. But let's just say he wasn't doing what the coach was asking him to do. And that in itself creates a problem where the coach is saying, if I'm a principal coach and I'm asking A, B, C, D, and it's not being done, then you're not going to play no matter who you are. But the fans are not going to accept that because they're saying, if this player is good, no matter what he's done, he's got to play. And now this is the reason why sometimes the fans and coaches have issues, because fans sometimes are not exactly sure about what is happening. We can look at how Maswanhise has played in Scotland, and we know that is good. And for me, I would have played him every single game. But like you said, Mashi, as well, most of the fans are not thinking that out of all the 55 players he had, he trimmed and he didn't see how Maswanhise was doing. Yes, he might have, the pedigree from Motherwell, but maybe the coach, and I'm saying maybe because I would view it differently, and maybe it's the coach is thinking, but so far, with what I've seen here, maybe it's not the best thing, maybe it's not the best thing to start him. That in itself, then he creates a problem for himself because if you don't win, whilst that player is not playing, then you decide to play him and he does what he did.
He scores. And
And
he
he
scores.
scores. You are in trouble now because everyone is going to forget about everything else that you've been saying and say, look here, you dropped the ball there because you should have played him from the start.
But to be fair, the coach in his press conference was spot on, really. The coach said, I've always valued the player. That's why I picked him in my squad. I felt that he was not showing fire in the belly. When I saw that he was giving me what I wanted to see, I brought him in and he delivered. I always wanted to use him as my surprise weapon to South Africa. He said that.
Mashi,
that was
I don't
politics.
agree with that. Honestly, that's no. You even said that. You even said first to say you went and spoke to the coach about Tawanda after the Angola game. Then now
No, listen, No. I spoke with the coach after the Angola game because because also, do you know what? I spoke with the coach after the Angola game because I was aware also about the confidence surrounding the player himself, and I wanted to really also support and see how things could be dealt in the right way. So yeah, but let me say this. I think, guys, it's also quite unfair for us to debate about Mario when he's not here. I'm gonna make an effort to give you Mario's contacts, the producer of the show. Try and get him to this. And I'll tell you one thing about Mario. If you invite him for interviews, he's not shy of interviews. He can come here and I'm sure it would be good for you guys if he has time to come on the show and explain for himself. I think it's unfair if we are to say much about him when he's not defending himself. So let me work on introducing you to him so that you can bring him to the show. And I think the audience that are watching would love this as well. And I think it would be the best thing we can do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mash. We are looking forward to that. But I can't become both.
So is there any attitude against diaspora players in general, or is there any deliberate effort by ZIFA to assimilate our youngsters? Because from what we've seen, for example, with the South African squad, that squad which played this AFCON is a squad which has been built over 4 years, 5 years, 6 years by South Africa. And then Hugo Bruce came in. I think he's now in his 4th year with the team. So those boys have grown together from under 20s, under 23s. But for our sake, when we have, let's say, Makostafa, under 23, under 20, there seems to be some ladders that are removed for diaspora players. Could represent us or at under 17 stage? Is there any deliberate effort to make sure before we just call these young men for the senior team, they can gel with their fellows at a younger age?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't think there's a deliberate thing to exclude them. But I think what I feel is there currently is that people don't really understand the potential that we have as a country, and I want to be very honest. If South Africa had the talent that we have, you'd have seen most of them in the AFCON squad. But I think we started on a very bad footing when also there were a lot of discords highlighting that these players are not patriotic to the country and blah, blah. So it disturbed the momentum that we had gained. But I think from the current administration, I think there's a clear mandate to ensure that there's fair inclusion of the best players to represent Zimbabwe at international level. But I think maybe what is missing is a clear understanding of the depth of talent that we have, not only in the UK, but in Australia. And I strongly believe, this is my personal opinion, people might differ with me, but I strongly believe that the past World Cup qualifiers, we had the best players to qualify in that group. But unfortunately, we didn't use them necessarily because we didn't know that we have the best players. And it's a pity that we finished bottom of that group, given the talent that we have. And I can attest that by Nigeria, we had better players that Benin can present, and the other clubs, even South Africa. The South Africans know, even Hugo Bruce know that we have depth and quality, but we just haven't been organized. We had 4 coaches in the World Cup qualifiers. We shot ourselves in the foot. So I think the biggest tragedy that I think is happening currently now is that as a nation, we don't know that we are sitting on gold as far as players are concerned. And if we are to find the right coach, maybe Mario is, if he's given time, who can work with the talent that we have at home and abroad, who could build one of the most formidable national teams that Zimbabwe has ever seen. And it's a pity that we have to get out of the group early again, And I think for me personally, because I've been working on this project, I believe so.
Yeah. As Mawo said, he is willing to represent us.
Listen, there are a lot of things that you factor in when we are discussing with these players. It's not a matter about that he wants to, It's a matter of also the ambience, the communication, everything that is happening surrounding the teams have a plot to play. I've spoken with Trey Nyoni's parents and Trey and Meuka and everything. But it's also the vibes that come out from everything that is happening. They have a lot of bearing in how we sell our national team to these players that want to come. But I want to just tell the nation that one day history will judge us, that we underperformed, yet we had the best tools to excel well. That's my feeling. People might not agree with me. And I'm not saying this because there are no good players at home. No, I spent the greater part of my 2025 at home watching the PSO. Jalai is a fantastic player. There's Andrew Mbemba at Highlanders, a fantastic player that I felt he should have been in the national team. He was not there. So we have also some good players, but we must bring all our best talent together and we can do wonders as a country. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
think,
Ray, welcome.
catching you on that, yeah. Hi, Ray. Yeah, so catching you on that, and it's a very, it's a very sensitive issue to me about this because I've always used my journey, when we're discussing this here. People will get it the wrong way sometimes because maybe they would think because I live in UK, so I tend to be biased towards players who are in Europe. But far from it, because I just want the best Zimbabwean players to be playing for the national team. And if we have the best players, I think we'll go far. And one of the biggest obstacles I've seen, and I don't know, maybe you can explain where this emanates from. It seems like the majority of local people believe that our local players should be almost like dominant in the national team. And it's almost like if I was giving, a rough guide, it's almost like we're saying 75% of the players should be locals and 25% should be diaspora. But then if you look at successful national teams like the Nigerians and all that here, the majority, the bulk, almost all their players do not play in Nigeria. There's a reason why they're successful because I use my experience as someone who played in the Premier League in Zimbabwe and then went into UK playing in conference. And that's when I realized my limitations on understanding systems, yeah, which is something that we were not taught well more than what's done here in UK from the age of 8, 9, 10. By the time a kid is 15 years old, they understand so much regarding team play, not individual talent, but how to operate in a system. And the majority of players or the players that we have in the diaspora who always tend to have an edge over the local players regarding that. So if you're talking about the national team, you're not talking about a national team which is going to be together for a month for players to understand what the coach needs. If it's 1 week or a few days that they're going to have a coach, if you bring in players from the diaspora, it's easy for them to grasp what the coach wants them to do. It's quite easy for them than the local players. But also, like you said, it doesn't mean that there isn't local players who can do the same, but it's quite few of them. The Jalais and all that.
I think I know you're passionate about this. I have to cut you on this one now.
Yeah.
But listen, let me say this, and I'll say this to the nation. I think the resentment of diaspora talent comes from people that are not aware about the quality that we have. I think people that are fully aware of the quality that we have. I've spoken with the legend Mofu Chidzambwa and other coaches. They phone me and give me encouragement with, please don't give up on this project. It's the hope that we have. And let's also say that for the strong advocates of local talent, I think KF have done well. We have the local chan, which is played by local players. And I think it's great that we have that tournament, because that's the barometer which we can measure as a country of how are we progressing within our local league to produce players that can compete with other African countries. If I'm not mistaken, we've failed in the last 2 years to qualify for CHAN, to go into the competition, because our local squads is not good enough. We are struggling in the Africa Club Champions League. You know, our teams don't go to the group stages. That shows that they are not good enough. You know, if you compare with South Africa, which is a Sundowns team, they almost reach to the semis, Orlando Pirates and Sundowns. So that's a yardstick to show that if our local football is good enough, if our local players are good enough to play in the national team, then they should do well at CHAN. They should qualify for CHAN and do well there. The last time we qualified for CHAN, we did not even win a game at CHAN. So I put it to those that think that we should have an entirely localized national team, that look at the statistics. The last CHAN last year, we were knocked by Swaziland, if I'm not mistaken. We're knocked by Swaziland. Over 2 legs, we're knocked by Swaziland. So really, if our local national team cannot beat Swaziland to qualify for CHAN, are they good enough to go and win as matches at AFCON? Listen, we don't need any scientific records about that. We have some good local players, but the bulk of our best players, and I'll stand here to be debated by anyone, currently the bulk of our better players are in the diaspora. If we choose to exclude them, we are doing it at our own detriment. And that I cannot debate with anyone. Statistics is there. And if we don't appreciate it, fine. I'm not here to force diaspora players into the national team. But you saw in the current squad what diaspora players can do. That pass that Chirewa gave to Maswanhise and the finish is there for people to see. So if people don't want to believe in the project, they want to knock it up and shut it down, it's up to them. They can do it. And God knows, you know, I don't get paid for what I'm doing. I know I've got a lot of insults for this, but it's my platform to also speak out and say we are shooting ourselves in the foot by not being open-minded in including them. There are also players in Australia and around the globe. We must broaden the system and get the best players to compete for our country. That way, like Kevin said, that's what Ivory Coast are doing, Cameroon are doing. I think Morocco have 2 squads. Even they've got 2 squads that they rotate, but the bulk are from the diaspora. It's working for them. They reach the semifinals of the World Cup. It's not a secret. Do you know what I mean? But for us as a country, I'm glad that the current football administration have pledged their full support to the diaspora project. And I'm sure if we continue to work together also with the manager, because it's the manager that picks the players, I think things can work for us, you know. And Kev, I hear you on this one.
Thank you. Thank you,
Ray,
Mashi.
maybe.
Thank you.
If you have that which you dream to be, there's no need for you to continue sleeping. Everybody who's in Zimbabwe right now wish to come and play for the EPL, for the Scottish League, for someone. So if you have somebody who is in the EPL, and then you want to compare them with somebody who is in the local league, please, it's unheard of. Everybody wants to come to EPL. Then you bring the person from Scottish League, then you say he can be compared to Navaya. No, to me, that's not it.
Ray, come in, please.
I think it's also our wish for Navaya to leave Zimbabwe and come and play in Europe so that his standard can also improve. He's not a bad player, he's got potential. But like you say, it's everyone's dream to go and play into Europe so that their football can go up to another level. So we do agree on.
Thank you. Mashi, I don't know whether I should call you comrade, Mr. Mashi, but anyway, that's not for me. That's for you too.
Maybe Mashi.
Right.
Please,
Mr. Gore, I'm a football fanatic. I'm a football head. I know, what happens. I have previews to some things. I'm not going to disclose. I have previews to some things about you, about ZIFA, about all that. We don't have to go into the politics end of the things, right? And first things first, I want to applaud you for this diaspora thing, the so-called British Brigade, because it was you and a couple other guys that came together and started making sure that these boys come and play for their country, for their nation. They can be born there, but they still remain Zimbabwean. And these boys have shown that they love the nation so much. They've shown so much passion, patriotism for their own country. Now, the problem that I see every time with ZIFA is that we take a step forward and then we go 2 steps back. In the sense that the game, the running of the administration of the game has been on a declining slope. The angle is just too steep. We are sliding. We're not even walking down slowly. We are sliding down. Why? Because we've started to get elements that do not belong in football coming into football. We've just got people who are there for the take, masquerading as football people, okay? It doesn't matter which coach you bring, okay? It doesn't matter which coach you bring. There's always influence from somewhere coming in between. And I'm going to start, I don't want to talk about Nice. I don't want to talk about Nice because I don't have love for that guy. I do not have love for that guy. That guy destroys young players' confidence. The one kid I have in particular is Mali Tawaziva. I think comrade, you need to go and talk to that boy and tell him Nice is gone. Because what they did to that boy is not right. That's the future of our national team. And when I say the future, I'm looking 5-10 years ahead. That boy is our number 1 keeper. But for Nice to do what he did to him, and then we have an issue where, there's under 23, under 20, under 17, all these qualifiers. All I see when you look into Zimbabwe football, all you're seeing is under 17. And nothing else. There's no under 20, there's no under 23. And we are saying as a nation, we're supposed to develop our game to go further. These are the boys that I think should be groomed to go to the national team. Because without them, we don't have a backbone. And now, once we don't have that, like you're talking about the ambience that's needed for these boys in the diaspora to come and say, I'll go and play back home. See, they need to see that develop from where they're standing. They need to see that happening because where they are right now, every time the 3 Lions play, the under-19s are playing or the under-20s are playing. And these boys, they're playing, you can see them that they're playing. And you can tell that they're playing the minds that I want to play with the 3 Lions. But here, I'll start the under-17s. I don't know whether these boys don't grow or something. And I have a problem with that as well. The boys that have been under 17 for the past 2 years, they're still under 17. I don't get that part. But all I'm saying is, when it comes to under 17, the same players are talked about. They're the same names. They talk about the same names all the time. You come to under 20, I don't even know if we have an under 20 team. You come to under 23, we don't even have an under 23 team. Why I'm so particular about the under 23 team is this. How old is Chirewa? How old is Maswanhise? How old is Meuka? How old is Mahova? These boys are supposed to be the under 23 squad.
Yeah.
These boys right now, they're supposed to be the Zimbabwe under 23. These boys are supposed to go to Olympics and play under 23. When with the national team, these are the same boys that we need to call back again, right? But now we have a situation, an association that is so, I want to use this word and I'm going to use it. I don't know how people are going to take it. We have an association that is captured. I'm sorry to say, Comrade Gore, this association is captured and you can't tell me otherwise because I know. Because pound for pound, when you call players the national team, we call it players based on pound for pound performance. Isn't that right? We use pound for pound performance at their clubs. But you're getting players who don't even start at their clubs. They don't even start. Out of 32 games in a season, a player starts, he's on the bench, he's on the team sheet for 8 games. He starts 3, he scores 2 goals. He scored our national team. You leave a player who's got 16 assists, who starts 16 assists, 6 goals. He's dropped. That alone tells you this year was not a football choice. This was not a football call. This was done for another reason. That is not football. Now, my point is this. We can discuss all these things. I know you're passionate. I know you're doing a lot behind the scenes. But what I'm saying, comrade, is your efforts will amount to 0 as long as we have people who don't share the same vision as you. As long as we have people who don't see football for Zimbabwe from the same eyes that you are seeing it from. For example, this Mahova boy, I've heard about this Mahova boy. I've heard about this Sunderland boy. I've heard about how long do you think these boys are going to be standing there waiting to be called back? And all we hear about Meuka is when he scores for Chelsea. Zimbabwean Meuka. But who has actually like you've just said, it's good that you've spoken to his parents and all. But I'm thinking, how long are we going to be saying Zimbabwean Meuka as long as he scores for Chelsea? When are we going to say, look, he is coming? And the reason maybe he's not coming is because if he comes, someone's going to say, but then you call our soccer star there and they're playing and they're vying for the same position. You know, we have this in our love of being patriotic, of saying we must have local best players. We get lost in those emotions. We get too emotional because Twiti Andre Dimbare. So Dimbare must play because they were Dimbare. When it comes to the national team, this is a different ball game altogether. We want the best. Like you mentioned, Mbeva didn't go. Maybe he was injured. I don't know. Mbeva didn't go. This guy I'm talking about, Ziocha, didn't go. Okay? We don't know why he didn't go. But I don't think it was Mario's decision with some of these players. I don't think it was Mario's decision alone. And people can explain like, oh no, it was his, it wasn't. You can tell it wasn't his. And then, so my thing is this: as long as we don't have people with your mindset, with your vision at ZIFA, we can praise them we can praise them that they've done this, they've done that. We are not going anywhere. We are going nowhere slowly. Because it's like the other time people were praising the ZIFA president for organizing the friendlies with Qatar. Why? That's his job. Why are you praising him? That's his job. It's like you being praised for buying your kids the necessities. It's your job. You're a father. You
It's
do
a
that.
good
That's your
job, though.
We shouldn't praise you for
It's
that.
a good job, though.
It's your job. Saying, good job, Abuma Titingira Chikafu. No, it's your job. Buy them food. That's why you're there. But my thing is this: if we don't fix, charity begins at home. Okay, 1 and 2. Chance favors a prepared mind. Chance favors a prepared mind. If we're not prepared, our chances go down. So my point is this: we can talk here and do all that, but as long as we don't have people that share the same vision with you, and there are plenty right now, they're there.
You hear
Let me
them.
give you-
You hear them,
Right.
Mangwana.
Come in, Mash.
Ray, first, I think you've a lot of important about junior. All the governance structures are almost done. The second year, we'll be looking at the developmental structures, provincial youth leagues and everything, setting up in under 17 and under 20. So I think let's also say, let's give them the benefit of doubt that by next year when they start this, we'll see a framework that starts to work. But with regards to
Next
the calling
year,
of
not
players.
this year, not 2026.
No,
This
this
year.
year now. Sorry,
Okay.
it's my wrong.
All right.
Yeah. But what I want to also say is that with regards to selection of players and all this, I think it's important for me to also try and arrange for you to have Mario or Caetano to come here at these platforms so that you guys can question them, because it's not within my space to answer a lot of questions about why are these players selected, why were these players not selected. So on that one, I'll make sure that I give you access to the coaches.
Please,
you can bring them here,
bring
and
them
then
here.
I'll also
Thank you.
I'll also watch as you grill them. So definitely, I'll support you with that. But let me say one thing that you've mentioned. You see, we have a serious challenge now that the structure of football in Africa has changed. If you notice, if you might understand this, that what happens at under 17, we now have regional tournaments. So if you qualify for those regional tournaments, you finish in top 4, then you go from your region, you go to the under 17 African qualifiers. So I think the biggest challenge we faced in the under 17 tournament is that if we don't assemble a strong squad, we're going to miss out on the major tournaments, because once we are knocked out at regional tournaments, we can't progress. And that means for the next 2-3 years, when the AFCON is going to be played at under 17 or at under 20, we're not there. So it's very important. And I've emphasized this to my colleagues who are working on football development, that let's try by all means to ensure that the next tournaments that are coming, we get our best players, even those that are in the diaspora at under 17, to be there, so that the only way we can go to the Olympics is we have to win our regional tournament so that we can go to AFCON, finish in the top 4 there, and then go to the Olympics. If we don't, we're left out. And if you notice what happened this year, and it's not a secret, we tried frantically to get the diaspora players to be involved at under 17 level. That wasn't made possible. And what happened? Our team never won again with all the local best players. Nothing wrong about those boys, but our local leagues at under 17 are not as strong as we would want them to be. So again, it was a missed opportunity. And I've made it very clear to the president, I've made it very clear to the vice president, and the guys in charge of development, that for the next tournaments that are to come, let's embrace the diaspora, not only boys, even girls. And we are starting to get a lot of girls that want to represent the country. Let's bring them on. That's the best way we can. It's not a secret that our development is
Mashi,
stagnated for the last year. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you. And we don't want a token gesture like what happened last time with the day before the
Under
trials.
17 trials.
Abapanzi, in 24 hours, Mwananga Abek, Australia, she get my trials to St. George's. And that would be a token thing. Yeah, you can go on.
That wasn't right. No, that wasn't right. And we were very clear with them, that we cannot work like that. And actually, if I'm going to be very honest, we had a plan where we wanted, because remember those tournaments were happening in summer when it was summertime here. I'd initiated with the previous technical director that we were willing, actually, we had spoken with Loughborough University. They were willing to come and host a camp for the boys here. So which means the boys from Zim were supposed to come here and have a camp here for about 3-4 weeks here in preparation for this. But unfortunately, things did not work as we wanted, because the technical director that we were working with, unfortunately, he was dismissed from ZIFA, and then there was a new person that came in, and again, we lost time, and eventually, we were not up to scratch with the tournament. But I agree with you guys that we must improve our collaboration, and we must cast our net wide at under 17 level. If we are not successful at under 17 level, we will not be successful at under 20 level, and we will not be successful at the senior national team. It's not a secret. It's what it is. The Morocco you see now, if you notice the Morocco squad at AFCON, this is under 20.
Yeah.
The under 20 that went into the World Cup, this is the squad you're seeing now. They've already gone into the transition. The team that reached the semifinal of the World Cup was disbanded. They took the majority of the under 20 players. They're already making a wave now, and we must have a conveyor belt of players moving in, and that we must. It's a must to ensure that we are successful. So I heed your call, guys, and I'm sure we will be discussing it with the guys at ZIFA. And unfortunately, I sit in an advisory committee whereby I'm not actually in the ZIFA board, but I sit in an advisory committee where my input is mainly based on recommendations and communication. I have access to people, so I'll be advising some of the points that you are bringing in here and putting them in my reports as well.
No,
Mashi, if I may come in just one more time before I go, I think the first one is we don't need you to be an advisor because you're an active participant in terms of recruitment. So being an advisor, have a position that is actually known and noticed and known that you are in the ZIFA board. Because as it is, right now you become an advisor. And when decisions are made, we only get to be recipient of decisions that have been made, and yet we are advisor. I would suggest to the president to say, the diaspora, let it have an active member who is on the board so that at least when decisions are being made, you can actually air out some of these things. Then secondly, ZIFA is measured by results, not by the way how they restructure themselves. So I think the restructuring is a very good thing, but still results will always ask for results. Then the last thing that I actually saw, which was very detrimental this time, the communication department was very reactive, not proactive.
Hey.
Instead of them telling people things, they were waiting for a situation. A very good example, the Munetsi issue, it ended up being a big thing, and yet it could have been contained in a different way. The kids, the way how they came out, whoever had an itel phone who took those photos gave us the wrong impression that the jerseys were not even of good quality. So tell them not to use an itel phone when they're actually doing that. The way how they communicate, you communicate something that is not right. So then the last thing is that I also want to bring to your attention, that I would like to ask as a question. What is the way forward, given the fact that we have 2030 World Cup? We have 2030 World Cup. When should we start preparing?
I think the preparations should start now. And it's not a secret, the preparations should start now. Other teams are already on the back foot. Like I said, Morocco are already using their team that they want to use to qualify for the 2034 World Cup. But I think it's not too late if we start now. So what do we need to do? We really need to ensure that we have structures of scouting the best talent, especially locally. In the diaspora, it's easy because we already have players that are playing for elite football. It's very easy to know where they are and to bring them. But I think the biggest challenge is at home, where we don't have grassroots football leagues or strong under 17 leagues that can help us to pick players. I know there's so many academies that are doing quite well in terms of finding talent and developing talent. But I think we need to bring a proper structure where we are able to account for our best talent in the country. And best talent is not always in Harare and Bulawayo. Best talent that is in Binga, in Gokwe. We must have a system of identifying our talent at district level and making sure for this level no one gets missed. At this moment in time, we just work with what is there. But I can rest assure you that we need systems that can cover the whole country so that we get our best players to represent our national team. So that's the work which is in progress. I've been reassured by ZIFA that next year they're starting to implement the development programs. There's an MOU which has been signed by the schools to ensure that football is now played at school level throughout the year, not just second term alone, but throughout the year. Hopefully that will help to have more games and identify talent. So there's work in that. And I think it's important for me to also try and arrange the guys that are working on the developmental aspect to also come on this show so that they can showcase and share with you the progress that they are making.
Sorry,
But
Mashi,
Marshall, when they ask about the diaspora on the during board meetings, who do they answer to? Because if you don't have a position within the board, please let us lobby for that position to be there.
Yeah, no, that's a very important question. But you know the structure of ZIFA at this moment in time. We have 7 board members that were elected, and those 7 board members include the president, the 2 vice president, the vice president, a woman, and also a man. And then we have the chair of the PSL sitting in the board and the chair of the Women's Premier League sitting in the board. So this is the main board that takes care of the decisions. Then there are committees which were established, which includes the committee that I chair, the diaspora engagement. But it doesn't mean that as a chair of the committee, I don't actually sit in the board. Our committees are more advisory, in terms of advising the direction where we should go, what we should do, and consult with you people and then take some of the ideas that are coming from this platform to bring to them. But yes, I understand your idea. You're saying that should we have a board member from the diaspora who's voted to be in the board? It might be something that they might be keen to consider.
Right, Marshall. Still on that, what some points Oliver raised. You see, when I said this, I want to come in again. Starting with that jersey, I was so deeply angered and disappointed that we're the comedian coming up, being interviewed to explain kuti jersey designer bakupi, and then he goes on to say we're just concerned about the logo. We've got so many former players that could have been brought in and say, gentlemen, try design a jersey. What is it that we need, in the, jersey, from the quality to whatever else, and then that's the first point. Second point is this guy, he went to 6 and 7 stitches. I could justify kuti this jersey. So what happened was this: we live in the ages of AI. AI, change a resolution, a picture, but the honest truth, it doesn't change whatever it is that's supposed to be. So this is just going to show you the level at which ZIFA is operating. In this way, my point, I'm saying we're going nowhere slowly, and then with the issue, Yakuti under 17s. They were called in because 4 days could doesn't gather materials from wherever they come from, and then you tell us that you'd organized a training camp. Now let's stop there. So you organized a training camp. Yes, no. Yes, I know. I'm getting there. You organized a training camp with the previous technical advice, Anditika, who was relieved of his duties. Now, anyone, Mashi, anyone involved in Bora, whether you're new or you're the previous technical advice, when you come in, you read the previous minutes. You don't just go into a meeting and you read the previous minutes. Could the previous minutes, this is what was talked about, Anditika. As a technical advisor, you come across the diaspora guys organize the training camp for these boys. You don't need rocket science. You just call Mashi.
No, but I think maybe if I can be honest with you on this one, the plan, we had a plan, but then the TD who was there not have the opportunity of sharing this plan with the board. He was fired before that plan was presented with the board. So I think that's where things were lost in communication. I met with him in Harare in April, long before, and we said, you know what, this is the plan that we are going to work with. So I came to the UK, doing phone calls and doing all these things, but eventually when he was also fired, not fired, he was dismissed, I think. Then there was breakdown of communication. And also, let's not also forget that time the new administration started office, they went through induction in the whole of February, I think. So March, they started operating. And there was not enough time to put everything into sync. But I think we've promised that from now onwards, we'll explore those avenues again. We'll work together and ensure that we can create a system that works. But it was unfortunate that obviously we were working with the TD, and when the TD obviously was also dismissed, communication was lost, things were not put into situ. And also the administration was inundated with induction and working, putting through structures. So it was a very difficult period of time to have delivered excellence, which we wanted. But I'm sure there's no excuse from now going onwards. We can communicate and ensure that we get the best out of the resources that are available.
Yes, let me get to my point I was getting to. Okay, that was done. That happened. It's unfortunate it happened. And then we still on that, when that under 17 is, when those boys lost their coach, the things he said, no coach speaks like that. I'm trying to show you the kind of thing we have, where I'm saying, Borare Luga, it will take a long time until we have the proper people in the way he spoke about those boys. A coach doesn't do that. And then fast forward, this Marshall issue, this Maswanhise issue. We have even the kit issue. We have a media. I would like to believe we have a media manager or something in there who's supposed to handle that. So we've got so many bloggers, we've got vloggers, we've got nowadays anyone with a smartphone and Wi-Fi, even Akazarwa 20, and then you tell you according to sources, Masha Siwa because of this, according to sources, Munetsi dropped this, according to sources, Uyasi was Jakat, and all this while, ZIFA media is just quiet. They'll only come Vaktoitachi damage control, of which this is what I'm saying. This is why I'll come back again to my point. The problem with our football starts and ends with ZIFA, because the moment that Munetsi, it was the young Amsona, I don't know, my injuries. It was, you see, 1 minute ZIFA is saying this guy is injured. Like Walter he didn't come, and then he posts himself on social media, 1000% fit. Now, like I said, Zimbabwean fans, they're emotional, because Van will support a player rather than the whole system. They started saying, hey, Mamsirechi. And all that while, ZIFA media was quiet. You see, this is what I'm saying with media. The moment this happens, and then there was issues of Mario being racist, being what. He was guns, he's abusing guns, he needs to go. And all that time, they were just quiet, which means, Marshall, this takes me to my point. We have the wrong people in the wrong positions, because if I was the PR media guy, and I'm not a media guy, but I'm just saying, common sense, these things are coming out. You call a press conference, you call Mama journalist Santika, and then you sit there and then you tell them the official standpoint, the official stance of the association in regards to Marshall Munetsi is ABCD. For Zemura is ABCD. For Walter Msona is ABCD. And then wait for them to ask questions. But no, we've got a situation where the media, the PR, the media, where ZIFA is quiet on such. These are sensitive issues we're talking about. They're quiet. And then while they're quiet, then you have, I'm going to tell you this today, the ones, like they've got the 411 yes, this is critical national team, according to sources. I know the Wi-Fi in the smartphone. No, you're not according to sources. You know what I mean, Mash? But it's not proven, right? But see, who is my target? If I tell people without a better channel or a better outlet, they'll believe me, won't they? They will believe me because that's all they can hear. You get my point? So, all these things to keep the image of ZIFA, their media section has to play their role proper on time. And then you ask yourself, but and you can tell my players, so you can tell where it's coming from. But all the time they're quiet. You see, all those things, they need to be cleaned out. It's unfortunate you're not. You see, this is what I'm saying. I don't want to say much, but if you ask me on a personal level, one-on-one, I would rather have you in a position of influence where you
Right.
can make decisions.
Right. I think let me also answer some of the questions. Obviously, I can't speak on communication and the, but I think maybe what we must also be aware of is that we have a new administration that is coming to office, and like I said before you joined the show, they'll be turning 1 year end of January, end of this month. Why I'm fully aware that there's some restructuring that are happening on the communication side as a result of the concerns that you have mentioned. I think it's work in progress. But maybe what I can just say at this moment in time is that without sanitizing anything is that maybe let's give them time. And I think I can see that they are all trying to work hard to make sure that they get things right. So we are also supporting them, and I'm not isolating myself from some of the challenges, but I think it has been really a very difficult challenge for them to come in. And let me also touch on the issue of coaches that you mentioned. Again, it's not a secret. We're really way behind in terms of the development of our coaches. There's been a fast track program now happening in all the regions of CAF license, starting with CAF D and moving to CAF C, CAF B. Everything is starting to come into place now. That also accounts for maybe the reason why the quality of some of the coaches we had locally were not good, because we had not had CAF training coaches. So I think ZIFA has arrested that by launching out more affordable training coaches for our coaches. But it will take time to see the results on that. The communication issue, I think it's a key issue that I think maybe as we are talking right now is also being that department, I understand, is being restructured. And I'm sure as we start this new year, you'll see better communication coming from the association. What I want to say also clearly is that I've seen good willpower from the president, the vice president, and the whole executive to get things right. I think maybe one of their mistakes is that they're also too quiet sometimes when they're doing a lot of things.
True.
Yeah. But they've been working so hard. The first year, the fundamental was to put in strong governance structures. And I can attest that they are putting in those governance structures. So I'm very happy with the progress that they're making. On the next year, it will be the development now of implementing youth football leagues and everything. And I do hope that they're in the right trajectory. But criticism is also valid. It's what makes us to improve as an association. And I'll take everything you're saying on this show on board. But like I said, it's also important for you guys to also get the president to come here or the vice president to come here. At their numbers, I'll share with them. That's how we can develop also when we engage and cross-pollinate ideas on this show. It's not criticism what you're saying. These ideas you're sharing with me, we must take and respectively take them on board and improve our game. So definitely we'll be sharing more information, and you can get the right people from someone from the communication department to come here and explain also what is happening. But what I cannot doubt is the will for change. It's there within this administration, and I hope that we will get things right.
National Sports Stadium.
I have a question. Yeah. In fact, I have a couple of questions. Funny enough, no, one of it was the ground. It was National Sports Stadium. So I'll ask on your behalf. So, but I'm not starting with that. Mashi, you know what? I wanted to ask whether this has been sort of communicated or anyone is actually engaged regarding this, because we have, like we're talking about the diaspora, yeah? Guys, I think someone has got a feedback. So if you just put your camera, your Ray, is it yours? Yeah. So, so basically I was saying, we're talking about the diaspora, yeah? Is this coach in our, do you think that he would be sort of open to the idea of, because we're trying to get as many best players as we can. And Mashi, you've done, a lot on it, the bulk, and just to share this with you guys as well. And I know he's here, and I say things as they are. Mashi has always been very sort of inclusive when it comes to these. He's one person where I'm not trying to embarrass you, but Mashi he doesn't want the limelight on him to say Mashi has done this. He's always wanted to share, that the credit for whatever has happened. So to an extent where all these players you hear about, Ed Mashi has worked with, he's always come onto the board. We've got a UK Zim board, and he's always coming. A simple thing like, boys, if anyone wants to come, let's go with this player. We've always been offered, that chance to go with the player and meet up at the embassy to actually be there on the facilitation of that, the boys getting the passports and all that. That shows, a leader who wants to do things, with everyone because for the sake of the community. So I applaud you for that. Amongst the many things that I'm proud of. Yeah. So going back to the point, with the diaspora, do you think you would be open to an idea or suggestion that someone made, which seemed quite very interesting? We have a lot of players, say in UK, in Germany, in Australia, everywhere else. If we were to have people of technical know-how, like coaches, like say for instance, here you've got myself, you've got Kenny, the two Kennys, the Trevors and all that. If we were to sort of have a database of players who are playing in the diaspora, the George Mwanders, like in Germany and all that, and there's players there, and we actually go and watch these players every now and again. We go and watch these players and make sort of an extensive report on these players, which those reports will go to the Zimbabwe team coach, so that even though he's not watching them all the time, but he's kind of having a feedback, on the players that potentially he could pick, from, for the national team. And I remember because I worked with Derby County as well before, and they had a system where obviously they could provide footage for every player, either for training or for the game. And if we try to get that sort of footage, say for games for players, so we watch them, we do an extensive report, and we also have footage that is sent to the Zimbabwe national team coach. So he's always kept abreast with what's happening, with the players. And that, when it comes to selection, it gives them sort of an idea. He's not just thinking that so and so is playing for League Two or League One in this country or whatever, but he actually has something tangible in front of him to actually determine whether these players, are going to be part of the national team. Then my next question was going to be, I'll make it quick. My next question is,
It's okay.
do you have any idea about the national sports stadium? Where we are with that. Those are my two questions.
Okay. Maybe let me start with the first one about using the expertise that we have in the diaspora to support with scouting players and providing information. I think I've been very clear that the diaspora does not offer players alone, but it also offers resource and capital, people that are mobile, people that are already in strategic position that can do this. Most of these people, Kevi, you know it, you guys have been working with Team Zimbabwe UK voluntarily, and the love for the game, really. So yes, I've made those recommendations in my diaspora football development plan that we could utilize existing coaches that we have that are in the diaspora. You have the likes of Charles Mtlauri and Morgan Katazo in Canada and America, and Eddie Mukaanana. They're already working in football in the industry. They have the resources, so we can utilize them. So that I've made a recommendation. Even Max Makanza, George Mbando, they can come on board and support, and most of these people, the good thing about the diaspora, they're willing to do it voluntarily to support the country. So that recommendation has been put in place. With regard to the National Sports Stadium, I know the target was to play our last qualifiers at home, but unfortunately, that did not happen. But I think I have an understanding that our next qualifiers that we are going to play will be played at home. Although that's not my department, but I did also find out in the ministry, and the Minister of Sport is very determined. I had a chat with the minister, with the Deputy Minister of Sports when I was in Marrakesh, and I get the understanding that government are fully committed that our next international games should be played at the National Sports Stadium. So hopefully the logistics will be in place, and that's what we all want, for the national team to develop a relationship with their fans, to also play at home, and it's long overdue, and it's a must, I have to say.
Yeah. So related to the diaspora players, I've noticed that we've lost very potentially talented youngsters to the wind sometimes, because I feel sometimes these young players, of course, they live in the UK, some of them live wherever in Europe. They may have an issue maybe in terms of belonging somewhere. So sometimes they lose form, or sometimes they join teams and then they lack game time. So is there any support that we give to our youngsters or an advisory platform? For example, say Tawanda Chirewa has joined Wolves. He's been playing there, but he's not really getting game time. I've noticed that with the English youngsters, the moment they don't get game time or the moment they know that they are very good, they go to a Germany, they go to a Netherlands, like the likes of Noni Madueke. He went to Netherlands. He got regular game time there. Some of them are going to Belgium. Some of them are going to France so that they can get game time. So do we have any platforms to sort of career guidance to assist our youngsters to make better decisions in terms of choosing teams, in terms of making moves to ensure that they get game time? Because, for example, if Tawanda Chirewa is getting enough game time, whether it's in Netherlands, whether it's in Belgium, whether it's in France, whether it's in Greece, it will help us also because he will be match fit when he comes to Zimbabwe. I think we've got legends who were recently appointed as ambassadors for ZIFA. Do those legends have it within their roles to assist the youngsters? For example, Benjani, he has played for Blackburn, he has played for City, he has played for Portsmouth. He's been in the system, so he knows what to do, or he knows the challenges that you face when you are in this competitive.
Yeah, that's a very important question. Yes, we have been working entirely with a lot of families to support the boys. We worked very closely with Jeff, Tawanda's father, actually in making the decision to support him with the decision of Tawanda to move from Leicester, going to Motherwell. When we are consulted, we are there to offer advice. Actually, today I was speaking with Mali, trying to find out what's happening with him, what are the plans with Brentford. So we shared ideas again and say we'll assess things at the end of the season. I gave him my peace of mind with regards to options of going into Europe. We also work with former players, like you've said. Kenneth Shuuri is one of the players. We work with the Team Zimbabwe UK, quite instrumental also in helping players to move into Eastern Europe. So we're discussing these options with Mali. And then he said, okay, let me see how it goes until the end of the season. If Brentford will not give me game time, then I'll consider moving. So we welcome the appointment of the ambassadors. I think with Bruce Grobler, it's easy. We've been working with him together. He's also a springboard for many youngsters. We've been running with him, supporting with coaching and his presence with Kevi and the team with the young players. So it's great that we always had a structure in the diaspora. Even before I was appointed into ZIFA, we had already voluntarily starting to work with a lot of players. There's a young boy called Nyakua who was released by Cardiff. We worked with him and supported him to get a club. He's in the conference now. He's playing. Macaulay Bonne is also another example. We're also instrumental to support him, to encourage him to get a club so that he could be part of the AFCON squad. We kept on making inquiries for options to Saudi Arabia, and the option that came, I remember when he got the contract with the team, he wasn't very keen, but I told him that, you know what, you have to play. If you're not playing, your chances of going to AFCON are minimum, and he took that. So yeah, we have the structure in place, and Benji, we were together in Morocco as well. Is now one of the ambassadors appointed by ZIFA. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of collaboration in using his network. He's been working, if you're quite aware, Benji has been also working at Plymouth Argyle. He knows Galloway quite well. And so that network is there. Even Kevi himself, we work with a lot of players. Sometimes if families contact me, I refer them to Kevi, especially if they're within Nottingham and Leicester. I just give them Kevin's number to sit down with them and give them a pathway of how we can help. So that has been taken care of quite well. And normally when we do that sort of work, we also put it in our reports to ZIFA to be aware of the work that we are doing.
Okay, great. Ray, please come.
Mashi, can I just come with one?
Yes.
You talked about a very good structure which is coming into effect in 2026. But now, I don't know whether ZIFA has a structure for the coaches. For example, you mentioned the issue of Mushlauli, who was actually a former national coach. You mentioned Grobler, who was actually a player and everything. Do we have a board that also comes into place to actually influence the structure and the way how we play as a nation? Because as it is, Mario just came with Fast and Furious, which is now at the top at national level, but down there going down. We don't even have a structure that supports him to say, okay, if we had a structure like Bruce Grobler and other former coaches who were there, they would have actually advised, though you then advised him to say play him. But I think, and I still feel, it is my conviction, that such a structure, would it help to at least support and buffer the coach in the event that he doesn't know the players and or he needs support or he needs the context of how Zimbabwean soccer is like?
I think you're right. What you're saying, that we need to have that structure. And I think what you're saying is that we must have a national model of how we want to develop our players, how we want to develop our football. And this goes also into how we want to develop our coach. What's our philosophy as a country? If a young man turns up into a registered academy, the coach is there, what are they teaching them? We've seen the evolving of these structures. For example, Spain has got the blueprint, where as a country from academy level, players are taught to receive and play from the back and play as a team. You see that translating from under 17, under 21, and into the main national team. And you see that visible in their local clubs as well, at Barcelona, Madrid, and all these clubs. So it's a national philosophy that they have. I wish we have something like that. I can't confirm now that we have it in place. I'll be lying if I say, but it's something that we are also recommending, that as a nation, we should have our own model that looks at the physicality of our players. Like, for example, what we saw at the Africa Cup of Nations is that we have a lot of players with speed. And from the days of Peter, Argent Sau, first touch, bang, knowledge Msona comes, so we are counter-attacking, sort of like football, that if we can build on it, it can also work. I think Gareth Southgate did it when he came to England, identified a philosophy of also playing. I think it's a good point that you're making. The guys at technical development, like I said, there's a technical development committee which is headed by board member Tafazgo Benz. I think these are valid ideas, and I'm happy if some of you guys can put this in writing. You can share them with Menzies. I think these are the ideas that we want. We need a philosophy, and that philosophy should be embraced at club level, so that when our players that we produce know how we play. The Egyptians, how they play. If you know how they play, they are patient, they invite you, they suck you in, and then they hit you with fast and furious in the last third. And that's how the Egypt has always been played, even during the 90s when we played them. It's the same result that they play. So I think it's a great idea, and I think it's something that needs to be involved in. I can't say what you've said is there now, I'll be lying. But I think as people work towards the development agenda of our philosophy, our model, and this is what will help us to identify the coach that we want, who can fit in that model, because it's no point bringing in a coach who's well known for defending when you're an attacking team and you have players that are built to attack. So I agree with you, and I think it's something let's have a discussion after this program and see how I can also take some of the ideas you have to share them with Benza. He's also he's lived in the diaspora before, so he's happy to engage people, and I'm happy to share your number with him, and eventually maybe at some point he can also come on the show and showcase what he's been working with his committee.
Mashi, I want to come in with two questions. Two questions. Number one question is Mario, Super Mario, Gang Ho, Fast and Furious football. Gang Ho, Fast and Furious football. Let me tell you, in Inango, I don't know him that well, but from what I've seen, Mario needs time. Let's give him a chance, because I'll tell you why. In a long time, we never played ball. We receive the ball, we play into the midfield, tata, and the boys just start going. They are going forward. They are coming at you. We've never passes and then start coming. That's one thing he brought that into that team. Kuti, these teams are actually shocked. Kuti, these guys are coming at us. And that's point number one. Point number two, on the same coaches, we've got guys, former players who are CAF holders. I don't know that the qualifications they have, wherever they are. Look at this guy who's coaching Egypt right now. He played Nana Peter and Love, Hassan, whatever his name is, Hassan or San. Yeah, he played with those guys, but he's coaching their national team. I'm not saying, let's just get a former player and throw him in the deep end. I'm saying, why can't we get this guy, Mbwando, has been making a call Kuti, they want chances. Why don't you give him under 17s or under 20s? Let him, put him there, get him there. These guys who former players who have got qualifications, why are they not considered 17, 20, 23, so that they become they become the guys who are grooming the kids for the top? It's on issue Mario. I would like to say on the Maswanhise issue, he needs better men management skills. Men management skills. He needs to do better on that one. He needs to do better. But when it comes to his philosophy, Bora Gangho, I listened to his interview when I was being asked about Zimbabwe. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm just trying to tell you, Kuti, it's too slow. He said it, but people didn't pick it up. He said the Bakaito interview. I'm not here to tell you what to do. You can tell what he was trying to tell these guys and the way this team plays. Then we have guys like Chirewa, Maswanhise, Msendami, and so forth. Those boys, I feel Chirewa should not leave Wolves for one reason, only one reason. The guys in Belgium want to come to the UK because Marinica UK is on a level higher. It's demanding and it's so intense. You need to be sharp the whole time. Yes, he's sitting on the Anugarapa bench, doesn't get much game time. Andiga, he's on the bench. But the fact that the boy makes the match day squad for that team, Andiga, still shows you Kuti at his age, this boy has what it takes. He just needs to be groomed in the right way. I feel if he goes to Belgium at this point in time, he's taking a step backwards. This is my opinion. He's taking a step back. What we need to do is keep them playing a league where the demand is high, where there's always, for him to make match day squad, it takes a lot. And that boy, let me tell you, there talks about ngaitwe so ngauzonzazo pasira zodai musiye yakadaro mfano aya because zvaringa aitoita zviya this is who he is. He's got this aura, this ego about him. He's got this thing about him. He carries himself in that way.
The more
yes,
style.
thank you.
That
You don't tell me.
The ball and everyone to understand it.
And if you take that away from him,
if you take that
away from him, you lose him. You lose the player. And he say, if you take that speedy thing from him, achikata so, you lose the player. If you take away zvidobidobine you lose the player. Vasiye vakadaro, and Mario anozviziva kuti ndo zvavanoita kumana vaiva. That's why achita, look at Prince Dube. Mario knows that. So for starters, I think Mario ngaambopuwa nguva, but he needs to improve on man management skills. That's the discretion is the coaches. When a player is dropped, and the discretion is the coaches. And what we don't want is just the outside influence on who is called up, who's dropped. But Mario Ngambo, both gang Fast and Furious yaka vringa nakawanda. Mukayasta saka yaka vringa nakawanda stere gang ho yaya. It's unfortunate we lost to silly mistakes and silly goals and but that gang ho football, it took a lot of teams. They did not believe what was happening because they didn't know Chirewa, they didn't know Maswanhise, they didn't know Mzugura. And Mario, this is his thing. Let's give him time. So all those who are being called up, if a player is active in his team and stays fit, he shouldn't have a problem. Coach let gang up. Unless you're unfit, then it becomes a problem.
I think for me though,
I can't add anything, Ray. I agree with everything you've said, 100%.
I think what I'm really happy about with the coach is for he brought something that was lacking in the team. Not from the playing point of view because the tactics but I felt that there was a core in the national team which almost felt like a sense of belonging to the national team. You belong to the national team when you are performing, when you're playing well, whenever you're called and you do well. And I felt like he shook that because all of a sudden, the players who many thought, they've always been definite, they will be there, rain or sunshine. All of a sudden, but to be able to do what happened with Munetsi, with the Zemuras prior to the Qatar games and all that, it kind of shook, the dressing room. And all of a sudden, everyone now understands that they've got to meet a certain threshold in terms of being professional. And also you've got to do well because a new sheriff is in town and you could be dropped. If you were in a situation where for years you're just used to being there and you think you will always be called, as long as there's a national team, you'll be called. All of a sudden, he shook that. And I'm happy with that because that brings a lot of competition, and also it gives confidence to players who probably were not being looked at, but favorably. It also gives them a chance to say, you know what, we've got a new man now. If I perform to the best of my ability, I'm going to be in there. So, that's a sort of a credit, what to the coach regarding that, because the Zimbabwe national team belongs to anyone who is playing well, and it should be rightfully that.
Can I also add something, Kevi? I would like to thank Magwizi. For the first time in the AFCON, we have never had an issue of players saying that they didn't receive their money, whether they received or they didn't, but the way how they've managed it, I think he did very, very well. And probably, I don't know what he did, whether he didn't do, but this time we didn't even have cries of money. Magwizi, thank you very much, and your team. Then the other thing that I wanted to talk about is I think on the players themselves, do we have a code of conduct on what to do? You notice that the way how Marshall Munetsi is coming out talking about ZIFA issues related to that, do we have a code of conduct where players have to sign on issues related to matters of that magnitude? Because remember, now the whole country is confused as to what really happened, and is also giving interviews in South Africa talking about the issues probably that were actually privy. Do we have a declaration of secrecy to say that even if you are a player, there are some things that you are better off discussing, there are things that you can say on air? Because remember, he's our vice captain. He's still our vice captain. So I think that's one of the other things. The last thing that I now have is what plans do we have? I think even Kev, it comes also to you. What plans do we have to motivate these young guys who are in the diaspora? Do we have even a day or a tournament that we can actually bring the, of course, the Nakamba people will think otherwise, the Marshall Munetsi and everything, and all the Nakambas and the mother with the guys, so that the young guys that were actually, that are in the country can go to Leicester and say, Marshall Munetsi will be there, and they get motivated to come to Zimbabwe, to come and play for Zimbabwe. Thank you.
No, thanks, Oliver. I think you mentioned the first question about code of conduct. I think the players have a contract that they sign when they come to the national team, and that contract also covers their communication and code of how they operate. The Marshall one is a very difficult one, and I think personally, I think it's a very tricky one. I know Marshall Munetsi very well. I think this is the first time we have had Marshall to be in the news and speaking out. He's normally very shy and very quiet. So I think maybe my advice would have been, what would have worked better in this case was to have a joint statement between the player and the Football Association, not to issue different statements, And so there were some oversights. I think that one, is a very difficult one. And I wouldn't want to say the Football Association was wrong or Marshall was wrong or was right. I think it's I think within their own respective selves, they had a way of communicating. I think Marshall wanted to play. I know he was injured initially, but it was a situation whereby maybe if he had come into the camp, he would have perhaps maybe missed the first game, but be available for the last two games. But perhaps maybe the other view was that, maybe we don't want to risk it and carry someone that is injured. We want to just have fit players. Whether that works, I don't know whether it worked. I spoke with Jordan Zemura, like you've attested, that do we look after these players? Do we talk with them when they're going through challenges? I spoke with Jordan, and he was clear with me that I'm injured. It's unfortunate I'm injured. I don't think I'll recover for the group stages, but if the team goes on, I could be available. So the communication was quite clear there. But with Marshall, I think it was a matter of the communication wasn't great. I wouldn't want to say Marshall was right or the football shot, but I think something could have been done right, because you could see that the anger that is coming from Marshall is that he felt he had a part to play. But at the same time, also, there were issues to do with communication from Wolves. I think this one is a very difficult. It's very unfortunate, and I think I just hope that in future we don't have cases like this in major tournaments. We should try and resolve everything so that if there's one statement, it's a joint statement with the player and the Football Association.
I would just quickly come in on that here. My problem with this here is that whatever happened. And I think we've got to get to a point where, things sort of ease off here. And my problem now with Munetsi is that I don't think for someone who we feel that he's going to end up being the captain of national team, yeah, for him to be constantly be seen to be giving interviews regarding that issue, which is a bone of contention, I don't think it's going to help anyone, even himself, because one of the things that like people have been asking, which is a fair question, is that if Mashi is saying he was fit or is fit, and Wolverhampton are pulling out a weekly injury list, which is saying Marshall is not fit until at the very earliest, 10th of January. Then it kind of, what puts now people, because he's talking about it, instead of people ignoring it, they're saying, but so was he fit for Zimbabwe, but he wasn't fit for Wolverhampton? So the more that he goes on and on about it, obviously brings questions which are really unnecessary, because I feel like he's going to be the captain of the national team, and I don't actually think that is helping anyone at the moment, with what's happening now, because it shouldn't just died, a death that it has, that story.
Kevi, what about the plans of bringing in the guys so that at least the young ones can be inspired to come to Zim? Because I think the presence of such big players from Zimbabwe who are playing for Zimbabwe can also become a springboard for the young guys. When we have a day like the day that you normally have, we bring the young ones so that at least to them they have a celebrity. I was with Munetsi, I was with this one, I was with this one who plays for this one. So in a way, we are innately building onto what we are currently doing to say, Manangu, go and play for Zimbabwe. In fact, I might not need even to motivate them. I've got a young guy who's playing for Rotherham here. I've got a young guy, but when you talk to him, he says, I'm going to make it. I'm not going to go to Zimbabwe. But what is it that I have that I cannot say with words that you can actually see? No, I'm associating with this one. It comes also to you, Kevi and Marshall.
But you see,
I think that's a
Oliver,
very important point.
sorry, Mashi, problem in any way I'm seeing the problem, Anditka, is this. Coach Uyu has just come in. This guy had less than 2 months to get ready for this tournament, Anditka. This guy, this is his job. Listen, even Pabaza, each one of us is responsible for something, and you are judged according to the performance. This guy was going to be judged on the performance here, Team Ook. So this guy was not at liberty to go and boost up morale Zamwapana. This year, he's just been there for a short while. So he needed to go with the
But Agatora,
strongest and
16-year-old.
fittest players was possible. So let's stop the emotions. The emotions right now. People are being emotional. Mashi, as no booster fan. No, Mashi, the team told us wakakuara. Anditika, we take that with wakakuara. If they give us a clear equity, because remember there are implications. Guys like Mashiga, panem implications. Taking him, akakwara mkanomshandisa, the team yake and the insurance and all that, they come into play. So Mashi was injured. Wolves up to now they're putting pa website yabo he's got a calf injury. EA is giving interviews saying Ribo. This is where Kevin is saying, see this line here, this gray area has to be stopped. Mashi has to stop giving interviews. He's not doing anyone any good because he's putting ZIFA and Team Yake Wolves in the spotlight for wrong things, which one of them is lying. And obviously none of them wants to be said they are lying. So for the most sensible logical thing to do is for him to be quiet and let this thing be resolved amicably behind closed doors. And then after that, with that being said, gentlemen, we are past that stage. Takaenda, we played. We are past that stage. What I want to see is this. A DM position defensive link in Ndiya Mzukuru. Whether you like it or you don't, Mzukuru has done to say. But see, what I'm saying is let's look forward to the future. These things, that's past. We don't need that. We need to move forward. We need to, now is the time. You prune it to get, you prune like my vineyard. You prune them to get new branches. It's time to prune. It's time to prune. Prune the guys. No, guys, thank you. I appreciate your efforts. You've done well. It's time to go forward. That's the future of Zimbabwe. Because once, Mash, if you guys can get that stage where Zimbabwe national team is coming for camp, So it's time to build going forward. That's old news. It's gone. It's too late for that. It's done. We move forward. We need to be building because the problem we don't develop because then todzokera mashiro like you said, look, unfortunately ndakakuwara can't and straightforward. It's done. He didn't cry, so we move on. No, and he's also one of the guys who should also be coming back. But just for his sake, he needs to stop giving my interviews. For but going forward hayi vakomana gang fast and furious handi bhora mberi koko handi.
Yeah, Mr. Gore, isus tinoita ma 4 hours panapa. So if we keep on going, we'll keep on going. So so guys, I think we've got to wrap up. Do you have any other words? Any of us and Marshall, you can any other words for the future, vision of the future, what you're expecting to do, what you expect from the show, what you expect from the fans, what you're expecting from ZIFA, from stakeholders.
This Andika, thank you for taking your time, and hopefully we can get number ya gang ho coach bambo ya panapa makanika timbotaura now. Ndivaudzeni kuti maisapfa nawo anenge akakuwara musiye panze. But nah, on a lighter note, no, thanks for that. Yeah, we just hope that with all the ideas that you have that you want to implement, we're gonna have more of junior policy football grassroots in Zimbabwe being developed coming up, so that like you said, want to target all the kids from all over the country, not just from the big cities, from all over the country, so they can come showcase their skills. Because our next Peter Love could be there, our next Moses Chunga could be there, our next Sifas Chimedza could be there. And also, can you rope in former players who've with the qualifications, give them a role in these build-ups, because they gave their all. We also need to appreciate them, and then they can also come in and and show us what, because we can't say Agoni it's a tamper chance. It's hard to say Agoni it's a tamper chance. But above all, thanks for the effort, and hopefully you continue that and watch the Warriors rise again, because I feel the future is bright. If you ask me, with the youngsters I saw and the youngsters that we have, the future is bright. We just need to create an environment where it's so that, like you talk about ambience, where it's so comfortable for them to say, I'm going to play for my home. These guys have pride. These guys have Zimbabwe pride. They have it. The fact that they actually come, they actually even consider it, it shows that they have pride. So keep up the good work, and thanks for coming through.
No, thank you so much. I think I'm so grateful to be invited to this platform. What I can say is that you're doing a fantastic job. Football needs more of these platforms to talk about our football. This is the only way we can also get to know what is happening, what people are thinking. There are a lot of things that we have discussed today that I'll be taking on board to also share with members in the executive board. But what I want to also say is that let's also bear in mind that we have a new administration that is 1 year old now. Let's give them time before we can judge them. They have a 4-year mandate to make sure that they put things in place. It's not easy. As you are aware, there are a lot of infrastructure challenges that our country faces. So besides just working on football development, it's also to do with the resources, the mindset. Like the coach highlighted, that our local football is slow because the stadiums are bumpy, so the playing surfaces are not conducive. So these are all things that we need to work to and support to improve. I think with time, I'll also make sure that I give you the contacts of the chairman of the Premier Soccer League, so that he can come here and also engage the diaspora. I think this is a very good platform to engage the diaspora, and I'll ask Chido, the PSO chairperson, to also come here and engage the diaspora and hear the ideas that are coming from this show. I think this has been really a very good show for me. And there are 1 or 2 things that I've picked from our conversations that I'll be escalating for discussion. So once again, thank you all for giving me an opportunity to come to this platform, and keep up the good work that you're doing. I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you.
Thanks
Okay.
for it. Yeah, I've got so much time, to speak to Marshall. So I don't need to say anything. It's just thank you for accepting, the invitation here, because it's not. I know you're a busy man, but I know your football ways. You would.
This is my first interview in 2026. I'm sure there's going to be more to come. But keep up from what we talk about. It's good to see also the passion. What are we doing to get the older players to mentor the young players? I think we have platforms. I don't know, KV, if we shared with him. At the end of every season, we try and do tournaments where we invite all the players to come and play And then, time permitting, we've had other players that have come in to participate in those players. But at the moment, we are so lucky that we have a lot of legends in the UK, the likes of Stuart Murisa, and protect them from a safeguarding point of view, financial abuse, emotional abuse, and all these things. We try and give them a lecture on a lot of these things. And maybe one thing that I want to add is that the recruitment of these players is not only supporting Zimbabwean football, that they're playing for the national team. These players will also be key when they connect with the country. They're the ones vachazoita maacademy fange West Africa. Erwana Vieira, already Jordan has set out his foundation. Nakamba is his, and we're going to have more of these players. Tendai wants to do something similar in Mfakos as well. So the advantage of the diaspora players is not just winning games for us, but they are also future custodians of the game. They have the financial means to do state-of-the-art football foundations and academies that will help the country. Saka, that's also another area that we are working with. And Mwana Mfana Akatambo anonzi Padari, where akadezwa national team, he came from Marvelous Nakambas Academy. So that's what we want to see. And once again, I want to thank everyone who contributed from ZIFA, the technical team and everyone. And most importantly, Nandakangano, Drautenda my fans, Eku Diaspora Akatravela, Morocco. I want to say that most of the fans we had from Morocco were from the UK, and I also want to thank my colleague Thomas Tomik from Team Zimbabwe UK, who helped to assist people that were struggling with the app to buy tickets, to make sure that my tickets vanwese. And also, most importantly, also thank the Football Association through the president for availing a lot of tickets for the game against South Africa. I think there were a lot of tickets available, which we distributed to a lot of the diaspora that were there. They behaved very well, and we are so grateful that the diaspora were very key in supporting the team in Morocco. So thank you, all the fans that are watching the show that traveled to Morocco. Thank you so much for your support to the team, and thank you so much to the team itself as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the audience. Thank you, Nkoma Mashti, for gracing us, and for my fellow hosts. Thank you for all the questions. And
poor number Super Mario Shamwari.
to that number, Super Mario.
Super Mario.
So we'll sort that. Don't worry. We'll sort.
And
It helps.
Yeah, that's
to
true.
engage and
Yeah.
create platform.
Yeah,
Guys,
and
it's been a pleasure.
yeah.
Thanks.
Happy
Thanks,
New Year.
guys.
to all
Happy
of
New
you.
Year.
Happy
Let's
New
all
Year.
keep in touch.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Comrade Gore.